Okay, cool. Hello, I'm John. I'm going to talk to you about Twig and Timber. So I'll start off talking a little bit about Twig, and then I'll move on to Timber, which is a big surprise. I work at a company called Base. We're over in Westbourne. We kind of build a lot of WordPress stuff, but we also dabble in large PHP applications. I'm a front-end developer, so I mostly spend my time writing Twig and CSS and Sass and things like that. Lots of JavaScript as well. And I kind of got really annoyed with WordPress, so it was finding Timber was a real godsend. This is going to be a crash course. You see, consider it's a joke because he crashed through a fence, and fences are made out of timber. That's the lowest resolution picture I could possibly find. It's about 2 pixels away from being 1 pixel. So, Twig. Who's heard of Twig before? Who's used it before? Okay, that's pretty good. So, Twig is a template engine for PHP. It's used in Drupal, or the new version of Drupal. It's used Symfony. It's a very similar language if you used anything handlebars. It's very easy to pick up and it's awesome. So, like I just said, this is repeating myself. So if you use Silex, you definitely use Twig. Symfony uses it and loads of other stuff. So what we're doing is bringing in Twig into WordPress. So little kind of basics that you need to know. Instead of saying echo var, you just kind of do double mustache. That's what I'm going to be calling these now. And just say var. And if you want to do a if statement or a for loop or anything like that, you use the kind of mustache with a percentage. You can take advantage of things like view inheritance, so not everything has to be in one big file. You can put things in blocks and overwrite blocks. We'll go into that later. Documentation is really good. And you can also take those templates and put them in other stuff. So I know someone who builds their style guide using handlebars, and those exact same files that handlebars reads are also used in Twig, because it uses the same stuff. So it gives you the flexibility. So if your client suddenly goes, actually, we've changed our mind and we're going to be using Symfony, or we're going to be using handlebars or anything like that, or mustache, you can really quickly just switch it over. So it gives you that flexibility. And you can do everything you need for the front end. So don't worry about being limited. I've never been really in a situation where I've gone, I can't really do anything, because you can use PHP to back yourself up. So the basic gist of Twig is you have a PHP controller that goes, oh, here's all the data, I'm going to get it all in, get all my house in order, blah, 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 blah. And then it passes it off to the view. So the view is where your markup is. That's where your HTML is. And that takes that data and just makes it nice. You know, you might have a navigation, or you might have the whole website's in Twig. And that comes out the other end as your web page. So here's the gist of it, really. This is a basic web page. So in this, this is our Twig file. You've given us the navigation. So in our PHP controller, we've generated a navigation variable. You just go for item navigation, just loop through it, and inside that you've got a href and a caption maybe, and that will generate all these things for you, and that will create your navigation straight away. And then we've got an a variable in there, which is really, really helpfully named. So from my point of view as a front-end developer, I don't care about the data. All I need to know is that so what type it is, so I can just loop through it or print it out, and it just comes through and then I know what I'm printing. So I don't care where the data is coming from. It could be coming from an API, it could be coming from WordPress, whatever it is, I don't really care. So like I said earlier, you can do if statements and for loops and things like that. So this is getting into a little bit more of WordPressy. So you can check, do we have some posts? And if the search query is not empty, let's say we're on a search page, then we can loop through all the posts in that search and display a little preview of that. And so you loop through it and pass it off to the little include. So you're just grabbing that file and it does the hard work for you. Else if we're not empty, then use the search form to use this page to search. And then if there's no results, if there's no results else, then we're sorry, we couldn't find any results. So that is like a really nice, clean way of writing this. That's just a picture of the Twig things. These are all the amazing things you can do with Twig. I recommend you just go through, look at these, because there's crazy stuff in there that I only really discovered. I discover something new every month, I think, and I go, oh, I wish I'd known this. So have a look at that. So Timber. So Timber is just a WordPress plugin. Just download it, activate it, you're done. And then you can start using it. It's used on tons and tons of websites. Like just looking at the Timber website shows you all the websites that people have been using it for. So it is out there. It is like being used. I've used it for like 8 websites, like these. Nope, like these. So this is an example of 2 websites we made. Both of these are multi-language ones. They're both running, so the top left one's running in 4 different languages. This one's running in 3 or 4 different languages, like Spanish, German, Portuguese, Brazilian, and English. But they're doing, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hits because they're big in Latin America. Don't really know what they are. And these are big websites, all running on Timber, all doing their thing. We've also made, this is the base website, that's running in Timber, and the passenger website, which is our product, that's all Timber. And these are all using similar components that I've built once and I don't have to build again. This is another website we did. This is an e-commerce one. This uses WooCommerce. It's kind of a really customized version of WooCommerce. I'll get onto that a bit later. But same again, we're using Timber. This is this is my favorite website to work on because it's full of lovely puppies. This is a charity website we do for a dogs charity, and it's lots of puppies. But that's all running. We built their website again for them. So their website was 8 years old. It was, it was 8 years old. You could tell it was 8 years old. So we rebuilt their website for them from scratch, and it was quicker for us to build it. The second time around in Timber, we built it in like a tenth of the time that it took to build the original website, because it's just so much faster to get stuff working really quickly. So WordPress, I hate WordPress, like the PHP side of things. It's just such a mess. This like drives me nuts. Like that, like what? Even in like a nice editor where it's highlighted, I'm just like, what is going on there? Like, why do we have to deal with this all day? It's awful. You can't spot mistakes easily. It's just bad. So what we're going to do, we're going to split it up. Like I said earlier, we're going to make a PHP controller and we're going to make a Twig view. Just cut them up, split them up. So here's our controller. This is the entire controller for Timber. Sorry. So we're going to create our context, which is a thing that Timber does to kind of magically get you all these things. We're going to get our post. So this is our post. So we're going to be reviewing a blog item. Just go, get me a Timber post. It knows magically what page you're on and gives you that post automatically. And then maybe we're going to display all the posts on our website, maybe in a sidebar. Give me the post as well. And then just render blog.twig and give it the context. Just done. In this example, we don't actually pass post into the context. That wouldn't be available, but that's my bad. And then the actual view, the Timber side, it's just this. So we throw in our header because we need that, and then we throw in our footer, and everything in between is just a for loop. We're including a thing for the content. We're including a thing if there's no content, and just looping through that for all those posts. It just makes it so much more sane, and you can concentrate on making your front end code really, really good. Because you want it to be fast, you want it to be really high performance, you want it to be accessible. But because of the PHP crap that gets in the way on WordPress, you can't concentrate on that. You can't be the best website you can be. So that's all it is, really. Timber brings the power of Twig, and Twig is awesome. But also, importantly, it brings the logic of Twig, and you can do that to make amazing things with it. So I don't know whether they call it this deliberately, but I like to think they did. Timber brings a fence between the back end and front end. So the back end logic just builds data to a spec. It doesn't care what the markup is. It just doesn't care. And the front end builds markup based on the data. So it doesn't care where that data comes from. So in theory, you could have two entirely different people working on the front and back end separately. So me as a front end developer, I can concentrate on testing my website, making sure it works on mobiles, making sure the accessibility is great, making sure it's fast, while the back end developer works on all the back endy things. But I don't need to care, and it's brilliant. So we can both excel at our jobs. So this is how I structure my Timber. And you can kind of do it your own way. But you can split all the files up to make your life a whole lot easier. So this is the basic version, which is what I showed you earlier. You've got a PHP controller, you've got a view, and a web page. But when you're having you've got 10 templates maybe in your WordPress folder, and you've got 10 different controllers, and then you might have 10 different views, and you're repeating yourself a lot, and no one wants that. So this looks a little bit confusing at first. So let's say this is our front page.php, that's our controller. And then it goes out to front page.twig. But then front page.twig can just pull in a layout, pull in some includes, and use some macros, and then render itself. So all this stuff, we only ever have to make once. So this is the front page. All it cares about is what the front page does. So let's have a look at those files. This is our controller. So we're going to get me the context, get me the post. We'll get our post in there. We'll bring in our blog post as well, the basic post from WordPress. We'll get our pagination sorted as well, and then we're going to get in, we'll use our own function, because that's one I built to get me a child tree, so it will build a tree of pages, and then we'll just render that, done, This file takes those items, loops through the post. So importantly here, we're extending this layout. So you're saying, extend this layout, and in the content block, put this in. So actually we don't need to worry about our navigation, we don't worry about our footer, we only care about the block we care about. So this file that's all it is. Yeah, I've just talked about that. So let's look at the layout. And this is where we have our HTML and body tags. That's stuff you just don't care about anymore. So in here, there is a content block. So that's, if you saw in the previous file, we're going, hey, this is the content block, put this in here. So if for whatever reasons that's empty, we've got a message that says, sorry, there's no content. Obviously, that we should never really see that message. But so that just goes, oh, the content block's going to go here inside these section tags. And elsewhere, we've got a block for header, but we're also including a navigation into that. We've also got our head. That's where our JavaScript can be pulled in and things like that. But all stuff like that, really. And it's just all that stuff that we can reuse. And then frontpage.twig can use this, and then your blog post can use this, because it's all the same stuff. Where are we? That's back on that frontpage.twig. So includes, you might have seen includes a few times. That kind of does exactly what you expect. You're saying include this file, just bring it in. And then, so if you did include sections.footer.twig, so that would be a file called footer.twig, and it will just include it in. And it will come in knowing the variables that you've got on your page. So if you can override variables inside that if you want, or you can set global variables, things like that. But you can also, if you want it to not know about the variables you've got on a page, you can sandbox it. So you can say, bring it in with this variable, and it can say look. So you could say, use this post in the top right and only want it to be that post. It doesn't know about the rest of the site. So you can sandbox it away. I don't really do that very often. Macros are really cool. So macros are for those tiny little bits of code that you want to keep reusing. It's not quite an include. I often struggle with the balance of using an include or a macro, because it's never quite sure which one to use. So it just doesn't really matter. You can switch between the two later. But macros are great for not repeating yourself. So let's say you've got a button that it's always going to have a URL, a text, and some classes. And then you can just say, give me the button, and it will give you that HTML for you. So you can just keep doing buttons. And then if you go, actually our buttons need to change, we need to add something to our buttons, you're not going to every single button on your website and adding a new whatever it is. You can just do that. It does it for you. And the way you use that is you import the macro file. So this will be in our file. And you import it in as a variable. And then you just go util.button and then give it the URL, give it the name, and give it a class. But you can automate those things as well. If the class is missing, you can automatically add classes. Does that all make sense? Am I going really too fast, or is that crazy? So yeah, your functions.php. Everyone loves functions.php. This is where you set up your global stuff. So your navigation, your footer, stuff you're going to need on every page, you put that in functions.php. So your front page.twig only cares about front page. Your functions.php is where you set up that kind of stuff. So adding new templates is really easy. It's just, you navigate it is this, but it's just a case of finding the file you want to do it, and make that new file, make it a controller. You can even, if you already have a Twig layout set up, you can make a new category archive, point it at that Twig layout, and it will probably work. So yeah, like I said, templates can share views, so you can have multiple templates all pointing at the same view, so you're not repeating yourself. So if you find a bug, you can fix it on everything. So, yeah, so templates can share views if you want, but views really should share layouts. You want one layout. If you need, you might have a different layout for special circumstances. What's great as well is that layouts can extend other layouts. So you might have like a ultimate layout, and then you have like another layout that's like columns. This one's in columns, and this one's like a full width page. So they both talk to the main layout, but then other pages talk to them. Yeah, it's crazy. Check it out. So some key Timber features is that this is now gone. Like, this is dead. Like, I hate this. We don't do this. It's that. It's so much nicer, in my opinion. It's much nicer. So Timber brings all these things for you. You don't have to, like, in the previous example, you're like going, get me the title and then like find me the permalink, all these crazy functions. Timber just does it for you. Just go post permalink, actually it's post.link now, and post.title, and it gives you like the featured image automatically, which I'll go on to next. So yeah, with WordPress, you're like, if it's got a post thumbnail, give me the thumbnail, else do this and do something crazy and do like a default image. Now you just go, if post thumbnail, give me the post thumbnail, give me the source. You can also give different sizes. If not, give me a default of that image. Although in this case it wouldn't do that because we've got an if statement around it. So Timber gives you a whole bunch of objects that just do loads of stuff for you. So Timber post is an obvious one. So you just go, give me this post as a Timber post. It does everything for you. It does all these things that you just take for granted. Timber themes, Timber images. You can also extend those out, because if you're big on your PHP and your classes and things like that, so you could make a class that is, a John post that inherits from Timber post. So you can use all the power of Timber post, and then your front end just go, hey, give me a John post, and that will give you your stuff on top. So really basic stuff in Timber. You can just say, Timber, get me the post, get a post, and it will automatically work out what you're looking for if you don't give it any arguments. Get post, it will automatically give you all the posts if you give it nothing, but you can also give it a standard WordPress query, all the stuff you already have, and you can just automatically get pagination. It's great. So WordPress features, obviously WordPress has got loads of quirks and things that you take for granted. Shortcodes are awesome. It's like everyone loves shortcodes, right? So shortcodes are really easy in Timber. So you still add the shortcode just as you would with a function, but this time you can just send it to a Twig file, and that way your shortcode is just another Twig file in your system. And instead of rendering it, you compile it, and it returns the compiled HTML, and then WordPress just carries on with its day. So yeah, if you're already using shortcodes, you can just integrate it straight in. Advanced custom fields. Who uses advanced custom fields? Not as many as I expected. It's the best plugin ever. You should do it. It's amazing. But Timber just works. Like, you just say post with the field name and it gives it to you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to ask for any fields. You don't have to go, oh, get me this field and blah, 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 blah. You just say, give me that, and it will just give it to you. It's great. Like I said earlier, multi-language works great. We use WPML, like a premium thing, and we use that with Timber, and it's like worked really well. We had to do a few little tweaks in PHP, but nothing that I wouldn't have already expected to do in normal WordPress anyway. Contact Form 7 works great as well, because it's just short codes. WooCommerce is an interesting one, because we've had middling success with it. If you're just going for an out-of-the-box solution with WooCommerce, Timber's not that appropriate. Like, you could wrap the rest of the site in Timber, but you still have to do some crazy PHP with WooCommerce. But with the site that I showed you earlier, that was a bespoke build of WooCommerce. Like, it's completely unique. So Timber worked perfectly. So give it a go though, but your mileage may vary on that one. So if get out of jail. Like, if you really want to use a function, like you're like, oh, I can't use a function, but I'm in Twig and I can't use a function. You totally can. You can just say function, just put the function name, and then you can start adding arguments on. So if you absolutely need to do something because you've got that legacy code that function only runs like that, just do that. And if you've got a post object, like a WordPress post object that's not a Timber post, and you really want it to be a Timber post, you can just say set post to be a Timber post, and then it will make it a Timber post. So that's when you're stuck in the corner and you're like, oh, I can't solve this solution. Your WordPress functions in there, so you need to put in your WordPress head and your WordPress footer in the appropriate places. That brings in all your WordPress gumph. So those come in Timber by standard. What's really great about Timber is that when I first started Timber, I thought, okay, we've got to build the whole site again from scratch every time. Like, so you take your normal WordPress site and you've got to rebuild it in Timber. But actually that's not true at all, as I've learned, in that the base site was and still partly is completely normal WordPress PHP using like hybrid themes. I don't know if anyone's used that. Not a big fan. But I started taking little bits out. So this was a function that did a banner. I just converted that function to give me a Timber file back, and then eventually this whole site is now completely Timberified because I did it bit by bit and replaced functions and started pulling the carpet out from under it, and it started working. And now that means that site now is so much faster to build on, so much faster to work on, and just a faster site generally. The key thing about Timber is that it's really fun to Google, because if you Google for Timber posts, you get those. You get images of Timber. So just add on the word WordPress and you'll find the relevant thing in the Timber post. I love that. The amount of times that it happens at least once a month where I'll just go like, Timber thing, and it will just give me someone wants to sell me wood. And it's just a little bit too much. So yeah, this is the key thing to take away, is that you're separating your logic and you're making life easier for everyone. Even if you're doing both sides of it, you're still helping yourself, because when your brain has to switch between the two, anyone who switches between CSS, JavaScript and markup a lot, and then you're switching to PHP and backend stuff, your brain just goes mushy. And by separating the two, you could just work on that for the afternoon, and then you know that you come to this, oh man, someone's already set up these variables for me. Oh wait, that was me, I'm awesome. So you can just do all that and then do all this, or just do a little bit of both. So you're just making life easier. And the problem is once you use it, you'll never want to go back. This is Adam, a friend of mine. So that's the tweet that I really like, because like whenever I go back to a WordPress project that doesn't use Timber, it's like really heartbreaking. It's like really painful. Like genuinely, like I can't do it. So you'll never want to go back. You want to improve everything to Timber. But like as I discovered, you can do it bit by bit, and you can make life easier for yourself. So kind of what Timber means for you in this crash course is that it's faster. It is faster. Like it's so much faster for me to do stuff in Timber. It's more enjoyable. Like I hate WordPress, like the default WordPress stuff. And WordPress is awesome again. You can get back to using the really cool stuff in WordPress, like using the actual CMS side of it's really good. You can use ACF really well. All this kind of stuff that is just we take for granted in WordPress. Actually, this is a really good CMS. You're isolating your code. You're making it safer, so it's easier to bug fix. Just like when you split up your SaaS into multiple parts, you're splitting all your code into multiple parts. It's easy just to take it in piecemeal and take it bit by bit. So you're repeating yourself less because you're doing it, you're saying something once and you know that is the single source of truth and you're doing it once, and then if a bug appears in it, you can fix it really easy because it only appears once. You're writing cleaner code because there's less gumph. Like if you look at the markup for any of the sites I've built, hopefully the markup will look really clean and really easy to follow. There's no random WordPress stuff in there. You have full control over that markup that you want it to have. And then you repeat yourself less, which is really important. Someone noticed that joke? So to get started, just get an up statement, run it. I think they're like a US agency. They built Timber. There's all the GitHub and there's all the object references and things like that. So that's what I really love about Timber, is that I've seen two different sides of people get into it and get really inspired by it. From a front-end point of view, it's like, this is awesome. Like I can do all the stuff I need to do. From the back-end point of view, they go, oh, classes in PHP. I can extend these Timber posts and make new post types. And it makes things so much more powerful in both directions. But go out and try it. Do it. Like just give it a go. Just make a basic WordPress theme. Start fiddling around with it. Now my whole system is crazy now. I have set up that I have Composer pulling in packages that gives me new functions in Twig. And I've got a navigation function, so I never write the navigation again. I never have to look at it ever again in my life. All these things I just have now in every site that I can't live without. But they're all my things that I've built. So try it and just give it a go. But thank you very much. Hope that wasn't too fast. But feel free to ask me any questions, or I can show you some code examples and things like that on here. But thank you very much. Hope I've inspired you. Thank you. Any questions? It's always it's good. Not sure if it's a good thing when there's no questions. She's usually like, "What did he just talk about for 20 minutes?" So, anything at all?
Some code examples.
Yes, I will. Okay. That's the problem. You do. So this is the Dr. Good site. Oh, cool. It's already on one. Okay. Tell me if you can't read this very well. Themes. So this is a pretty bog standard WordPress install. Like this isn't doing anything fancy like Bedrock or anything like that. It's just like a normal WordPress install with Timber on. So we have a theme called Timber because we're really, really exciting. Your functions is somewhere around here. There's my functions. So still doing your crazy WordPress stuff. We're bringing a bunch of files that we want to disable some stuff in WordPress admin because it's crap. Or we want to bring in some activate some custom post types, activate some stuff in advanced custom fields, sort of stuff like that. This site, when we built it, it was already a WordPress site before, so we had to deal with a lot of legacy stuff. So luckily with Timber, we managed to rip out most of the front end, but there's still some fun stuff hiding behind the scenes. With Timber, you start off with you extend your Timber site. Is that clear? Which I've cleverly called dog site. And you can just start throwing in things. So we've got a construct, so anyone does classes, you understand this, but it's really easy to pick up. So we're going to start throwing in some functions. So I'm registering my navigations here, just standard stuff. Don't know why the indentation's gone crazy. I'm going to add some image sizes in here. Image size is really important because the way I've built my front end is it's all kind of uses Timber, the power of Timber. I can just go, give me this size, give me a blog preview, and it will just whip it out for me and give me the proper image file for me. And just I do all the hard work here and work out those sizes. So this is where the context is that I showed you earlier. So this is where we start adding stuff to it. So a primary menu, we're going to want a primary menu on every page. That's the navigation at the top. So we'll go new Timber menu, give me the primary menu, and it will just do it for you. We've got like a cache buster thing going on here, so we just bring that in. We're going to bring in the ACF global options, so you just get all those, so we've got those available. We've got a page slider if that's available. Ugh, sliders. Some breadcrumbs in there as well, so that's just a PHP file that just returns the breadcrumbs. We just got some stuff in here that we can, different footer menus, things like that. We're getting the latest 3 posts because those appear on every single page. So I've got my own function that goes base latest posts, give me the latest 3. That adds it to the variable of DFG footer news, DFG footer news home, and that gives me the link for the home for blogs. So /blog, whatever it is. So like whatever it is, I'm just doing it here. Later on, when we're doing some stuff like if it's not the front page, if it's not home, this is where the evil code lives. You get a sidebar kind of stuff being built, and then you give it the site of this, which is important because it wraps the context and gives it as a site. So you can do site.link and it'll give you the home page of a site. You can do all the stuff you can do in WordPress where you type WP_home. You can just do all that stuff in Timber. You can also add Twig extensions here. I haven't really done it for this one, but you do stuff like maybe currency, so you give it a number and it will give you in the correct currency. So if you've already done Twig extensions, this should be fairly straightforward. So let's look at this one. It's called Puppies. Brilliant. So if I open there, this is the site. Look at those puppies. This is the worst site. So the images are missing because I haven't pulled them down as uploads, but you can live with that. This is the best site ever to work on. It's really difficult because there's too many puppies and I can't adopt them all. So I know, it's not the same without the images. I'm just imagining all these puppies. Puppy Hub. So there we go. So this is the that page. This is the template for that. So you give it a template name, and we just go context, Timber post, give me the post, and just a special one I did is sponsor puppy section. True. Just that's kind of we're just doing some awful hacking there, whatever. And then just go to page Puppy Hub at Twig, pass it the context. So obviously in the context we're getting navigation, the footers, all that other stuff that was in functions.php. Now here's page puppyhub.twig. So we've got straight away we're extending the sidebar right layout. We're going to import puppies.twig, which is a special macro I made because there's lots of stuff on this page that repeated. So I've just made a special file for that stuff that I don't care about. We've got a hero block in sidebar right. We have a hero block. So I've got so I have a sponsor a puppy hero.twig that I'm bringing in, and I just plop that in there. In the content area, we're going to loop through the post.puppies, which is an ACF field, and we're turning that puppy into a Timber post. This is a bit rude. It's a bit cruel of me, I think. And then we're just looping that. It's just a bootstrap column. And then using the macro that I said earlier, there's a puppy preview inside that, and we're passing it a puppy object. This is the best. And then we're going post.content, which is this here. That's the post.content, which is the standard, whatever someone types in WordPress. But here's those are the puppy images that they should be there. So that's just a loop there. The 2 columns that you saw in Bootstrap. So it just loops through those. So there might be 10 puppies on here, so it's flexible enough that it will just loop through them all and show them properly. And of course these are all, as I said earlier, these are posts. So you have this template as well, that if I just do it on the actual live site, it's probably easier. There we go, puppies! Yes! Right, so this is another page, so there's just another template here for these things. There's a slider, because everyone wants puppies, look at that. So you've got content and just all these things just come in to WordPress automatically. So your sidebar thing, these are all just stuff that, this is probably a bad example because this is like a unique page. There's not a lot of content here that's one-off. But But when you start, one thing that we've really found powerful at Base is that the more you work on sites like this, the more you turn your code into being really like componenterized, if that's a word. And so when it comes to the design phase, we will look at things as components. So when it comes to making a new page, sometimes the designer doesn't even need to design it. I can just build it straight away using the components I've already got. I just go, give me a hero banner, give me a content preview, give me a sidebar, and it's done because it fits the style of the website. We've thought about these things. We've thought about how typography works. All things like that you can just cut out the time-consuming part of. It's actually quicker for me to make a website using the components and take a screenshot of it and send it to the client than it is to make it in Photoshop. And then, of course, you have to build it again anyway. So when you've got those things perfect, and in Timber, it just makes it really easy for you. So all of your views in Timber, and you can put it in any folder you want, but I use a views folder. So these are all of the templates. There's quite a lot of them, actually. So you've got your news single that I use. You can call these anything you want because they come in from the templates on the front from the root of the theme. We've got like a shortcode section. So we've got a shortcode for a postcode checker. So this is where like all this stuff about a postcode checker goes in here, and we just put it all in there, and it does its stuff, and all the jQuery's in there as well. And we can just call that whenever the client wants to use the postcode checker, they can just drop it in and use the shortcode. Macros are in there as well, so we've got some banners, some components, some images, and some puppies. Our layouts is here, so we've actually got a few different layouts. I said my rule earlier of extending layouts on top of layouts. This doesn't. These are all different layouts that kind of repeat themselves a lot. I'm clicking through them here. You're not really noticing much difference. So that is like bad on my part because we could take a lot of this, turn it into one layout that's called master layout maybe, and just get rid of a lot of this stuff. And you can just concentrate on the actual thing you care about, which is the content. We've got components, which is where I just put stuff like, you've got different things that are like one-offs or the navigations in sections. So we'll have navigation.twig, that's your bootstrap navigation that just uses loops to create everything. This is an older example, so it doesn't have the fun things that I've made since then. But it's just a standard bootstrap navigation that uses if and for loops and things to add drop-down menus and things like that to make this site. And it's a very lovely site. And the great thing is that because this is a site that's especially important because they deal with people who are autistic, people who are poor of sight. So obviously we should all take great care on our accessibility of our websites, but the advantage of Timber is that I could concentrate on the accessibility over everything because that's the most important thing with this website is that it's accessible to blind people, it's accessible to people who can't use a mouse or just use a keyboard all the time. So all these things, I didn't have to worry about WordPress. I just worried about making the site the best it can be for my user, which is what we should all be doing. I'm going to keep talking now, but does anyone see anything else? Like any other code? Does it all make sense a little bit? Or do you want to leave now and go, I'm going to try Timber? Or are you going to leave now and go, I don't know what John just spoke about? So, but I'm going to look it up anyway and learn a lot nicer things. That's it. Yeah, style guide's great. Yeah, so I use a style guide in loads of projects. So, and what's really great, if anyone's built a style guide, it's a real pain to keep up to date because here's our navigation, but the navigation we actually use on the website is actually different markup entirely. Style guide in Twig, you actually just use the same files. You just say, include the navigation, and it works. So you can see all these things on a big style guide page, and as you change them on the site, you can see them changing the style guide. So doing that's a really good thing because it forces you to keep your house in check. So in 2 years' time, when this site is a wasteland of mess, it's only my fault. Timber has a style guide that they have a separate repo for. You can just drop it in and do some configuring, and it kind of uses a bit of crazy stuff to make it work. But that's really good. I recommend that. Yeah, so what it is, with that one, no, it's not automatically generated, so you still got to add, in this example at least, you have to go, no, it's in the root, sorry, you have to do some stuff. No, I've lost it. Pale style guide, yeah. So because it uses kind of like you have to make 2 pages in your WordPress because it uses an iframe because you can squish it inside the page. It's a bit crazy. I can't actually show you it because I don't think I've got it active. But you just kind of add your previews in here. You can document it. This isn't the best thing I've found. I've done better stuff recently. But you can you set your description and then you can start bringing in your markup or start bringing in includes and things like that. So in this example, all I'm doing is saying these 2 things go in a row, and then I'm using the macro for components, which is exactly the same page preview as what you see on the home page. So if that changes in the code base, my style guide stays up to date as well. So little things like that can just make your life a whole lot easier. And also makes it easier to test because you can see when things break, all this kind of stuff. I can't think of anything else. Has anyone got any other questions?
You were saying before about issues with WooCommerce.
Yeah.
What issues? Broadly, not if you don't know that.
Yeah, because WooCommerce relies a lot on hooks.
Yeah.
A lot on hooks. And you can actually bring those hooks into your Timber front end. And WooCommerce in general is just a bad time. In terms of because it generates everything. If someone could make a Timber version of WooCommerce, it'd be amazing. So you kind of have to fiddle around a lot with WooCommerce's inheritance, and you can drop your own files in and replace them and use Timber instead. What we ended up doing a lot is just kind of stuff like the basket and stuff. We just bodged and just improved it with CSS, but we didn't really do much in it. But so you just kind of use Timber to wrap the header and footer. But stuff like when it's actually on a product page. I forgot the code for this site, but get to product page. So this site in particular is very bespoke and lots of high resolution imagery and lots of lazy loading and things. This is all running on Timber. So this is your WooCommerce product. Lots of images that are all ACF fields as well, and this is all standard WooCommerce page. That's a bad example because it doesn't actually have a checkout on this one. Yeah, I've learned more about tablet kiosks than I ever wanted to. It's interesting. So you've got kind of, this is a very long example, but it's all the standard configuration. So we kind of use a little bit of jiggery pokery with the WooCommerce hooks and kind of disable that hook and then enable it later and do stuff like that. So if you know your way around WooCommerce, you should be okay. But we did another site that was just like a kind of really basic WooCommerce, and what that meant is that because it was really basic, they went into the back end and toggled like a setting on to change so the main shop you can change to be show categories or items or show categories and items. And because we built the front end using Timber, it didn't know what those are. So they would change that toggle and nothing was happening. So if you just want like kind of a basic thing for your client, then you might be able to integrate it with Timber, but it's a bit of a pain. So, but if you're doing this, like a completely bespoke build, it's great. But for just a generic one where they want to be able to change it, it's like not worth it. But we didn't really have enough time to really work out if there is a way to just use WooCommerce out of the box and kind of wrap Timber around it quite reliably. I'm sure there's a way. But yeah, can't think of anything else. Any other questions? Anyone else like puppies? They're great. What are some other examples? Yeah, just give it a go because I'll show you this one. myriadgroup.com. This is another site we built, and this one is multi-language. Got videos, all kinds of stuff because it's just a front end for WordPress with loads of snazzy things. So you can change it to Spanish, and it will just work. I've opened the search as well. And all these things just work and they're magic because we're using WPML to have like string tags. So when you're typing out your code when you print out a string in Timber, you can wrap it in the WooCommerce. Has anyone done multi-language stuff? Never do it, but yeah. So you can wrap stuff in the correct tags for WooCommerce. So for WordPress, so it knows that it's a language tag. So all this is probably actually CMS content. But if you've got those little bits of string like search, there is probably a part of the template that I just use a language file to update that, and then other stuff all comes from WPML. Just automatically does all this, so you can make multiple versions of a post that are mirrored. It's crazy. Never do multi-language. It's the worst. But you know, if a client wants it, then it works well with Timber. Yeah, so, I can't think of anything else. But yeah, don't be scared of it. It's so good. Any other questions? Yeah, anyone else itching to go?
Timber come with its own like basic theme, sort of start.
Yes, it does actually. Yeah, if you go.
Do you just start off with your own theme from scratch, or do you like create a child theme?
Yeah, so in future, if I did one again, I'd use a child theme that had like a standard kind of a John child theme that is everything. I'd then it'd be the same across every project. So I just pull that in with Composer or something. So I'd never touch that and just build on top of that. But usually we just build a Timber theme, and each theme is different. It does come with a starter theme. You can just drop that in. I think it comes in the plugin as well. You can copy and paste it into a theme file. So that gives you, if you just install that and use that theme and just activate it, and you can start playing around with it.
It's like a Timber 2020 theme, is it?
Yeah, it's not very pretty. It's just like kind of text on a page, but it shows you how templates work, how variables work. So they have a slightly different like folder structure, but you know, you can also run tests in your code as well if you want.
Is there a best practice to code with the Timber upgrades?
I've not really had a problem. They did have a big change when they went from 0.7 to 1.0. There was like a change with the way the classes worked. It was a simple case of just finding all the classes and making them fix. I've not really had any problems with changes in the plugin. Obviously, you can always stay at the same plugin level and never change if you really wanted to. But generally, I've just been upgrading and going, oh, it works. But then when they went to 1.0, that was a proper breaking change. So they broke a lot of stuff, but that's fine because it's 1.0. So it wasn't such a surprise. So yeah, it's generally been fine.
Is it on the WordPress plugin repository?
Yes,
It's a free plugin, isn't it?
It's going to give me loads of it's going to give me loads of books with Word. Yeah. So yeah, I just pull this in using Composer, which is another talk for another day. There's also, if anyone uses the WP debug bar, there is a Timber version of that. So you install the debug bar and then you install the Timber version on top of that. So when you click debug, it will give you Timber stuff in a separate tab, so you can see what's being pulled through to your front end. So yeah, it's just a standard plugin. Apparently, it's not available in English UK yet. No, because it's only available in US language. But yeah, just download it, install it, see what happens. The worst case scenario is you activate it on your site and nothing will break, so it's fine. That's not a promise. But yeah, give it a go. So who's going to go and give it a go, like now? You were already going to give it a go. Cool, thank you guys. Hope it's been helpful. Any more questions, please come and chat to me. I'll be sure to ramble on at you for another hour. Thank you.